It's the woke left agenda. Pedophiles are sitting back right now going, we've been pushing this agenda for decades. And now we don't have to push anymore because the left is taking care of it for us in America. And this whole trans voice on children. You know, again, I'm libertarian. Adults, do what you want. I'll fight for your right to do whatever you want. Okay, in terms of adult. I'm talking about children.
El hombre que estás viendo en pantalla ahora mismo es Tim Ballard, un héroe de la vida real. Y el señor que está a su lado es el actor Jim Caviezel, quien interpreta a este héroe en la película más controversial y exitosa de esta temporada en cines, Sound of Freedom, una película que toca el tema del tráfico humano, más precisamente el tráfico infantil. Tim Ballard personalmente rescató a miles de niños de la trata y de redes filas internacionales. Todos los sitios de la prensa hegemónica están llamando a la película una loca conspiración de Cuidan. Y aún así, pese a todo, la película acaba de pasar la franja de los $100 millones en recaudación, solamente en Estados Unidos. ¿Qué tal, amigos y amigas? Bienvenidos a Planeta Arcadia. Yo soy Pablo y seguimos hablando de Sound of Freedom porque seguimos palpitando el estreno aquí en Latinoamérica de la película, que aparentemente llegará para fines del mes de agosto, o sea, fines del mes que viene, y todavía no la vemos. Entonces, todo lo que hemos estado creando y hablando y debatiendo y discutiendo acerca de esta película es sin haberla visto todavía, así que seguramente durante un largo tiempo, hasta que lleguemos a poder ver esta peli en el cine como corresponde, cuando se estrene en cada uno de los países de donde estén viendo este video ahora mismo, seguiremos discutiendo acerca ya de los pormenores de Sound of Freedom. Pero ahora mismo yo quiero que vean conmigo uno de los motivos por los cuales buscan boicotear a esta película. La misma gente que desde el mundo del entretenimiento buscan siempre sexualizar a los más chiquitos mediante ideología de género y activismo y todas las ramas de activismos, por supuesto. Lo que van a escuchar a continuación es una entrevista reveladora de Tim Ballard en la cual menciona cómo la ideología woke, el discurso woke progre de hoy en día de esa pseudoizquierda norteamericana es la que le abre de par en par las puertas al tráfico infantil en Estados Unidos y bueno, comerciando con cualquier otro país del mundo. Habla acerca de realizadores cinematográficos y muchas más cosas. No es de extrañarse, y una vez que vean este video van a saber por qué todo el mundo del entretenimiento y la prensa busca ridiculizar a Tim Ballard, su lucha y a esta película, llamándolos conspiranoicos y todo lo demás. Escuchen lo que tiene para revelar en esta entrevista y no se pierdan detalle.
When Ukraine was attacked, Mel Gibson called me within hours. Okay, and I know Mel through Jim. And he said, hey, I got all these Ukrainian orphans that I help, that I support, and I'm worried about them. Can you go, what a crazy ask. Can you go into Ukraine while bombs are dropping and go find these kids? And he didn't know that a few hours earlier, my wife came to me in tears and said the same thing. We were working on adopting about 7 children out of Ukraine at the time, not for through our foundation, Children Need Families. And so she says the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mel Gibson and my wife are both telling me to go to Ukraine while bombs are dropping. Right, and I always was raised with the idea.
I could just see him.
He was in Budapest filming, and I thought to myself, I was raised with the thought that if Mel Gibson and your wife ever tell you to do something, and within hours of each other, you should probably do it, right? Who wouldn't? So I had to go to Ukraine, and I partnered with an amazing group that I sit on the board of Aerial Recovery, and we went in and started rescuing these children. 6,000 in the end. We got out of the war zone, but we were looking.
6,000.
Yeah, we were looking for human traffickers because we know that they prey upon vulnerability, wars, hurricanes, whatever it is. And sure enough, we lock into this pedophile ring. Now it's a frightening ring because it's a political party that was out of Holland called the PNVD. Lots of media on them. They were trying to legalize sex with children. They thought a 3-year-old could consent to sex. Well, even in the Dutch arrested them in 2020, which is very hard to get arrested in Holland. I don't. Okay. You got to be really
red
bad.
light district.
You got to be really bad, okay, to get arrested in Holland. They were arrested in 2020, fugitives. They ran, and they were hiding. No one knew who they were. Well, they rear their ugly heads. The leader, this guy named Nelson Matterlin, he raises. I'm literally in Poland at the time, at our staging operation for Ukraine, and I get this information that this guy in Mexico is trying to traffic kids out of Ukraine. And so I go undercover. The Dutch asset who gave me that information infiltrated me, and I'm undercover talking to this guy. Well, in the end, we ended up, in fact, just yesterday, 2 of the guys were convicted in Ecuador because it led us to Ecuador, a child sex hotel, these pedophiles from Holland and set up. But we'll get into that another time, okay? But the point I'm making is I had to study their literature. This was a political platform. This was a political party. And what I started recognizing is I named them I call it the pedophile network doctrines. Okay, it's like they include things like separate children from parents because parents are a bad influence. The state knows best. Sexualize kids. Let them see pornography. 2.
Karl Marx.
3. Take God out of education because that just gets in the way. And kids consent. Children can consent to anything. At 12 years old, they should be able to vote. They should be able to do anything. Now, what am I saying here? My stomach is getting sick as I'm reading this. I read this every day. It's the woke left agenda. I'm not saying that they're colluding or talking. It doesn't matter. It's the same dark source. But they are pedophiles are sitting back right now going, we've been pushing this agenda for decades. And now we don't have to push anymore because the left is taking care of it for us in America. In America. And this whole trans voice on children. Again, I'm libertarian. Adults, do what you want. I'll fight for your right to do whatever you want. Okay, in terms of adult. I'm talking about children. And what they're saying is children can consent to having their bodies filled with a chemical that will destroy the reproductive system. They can consent to ripping apart their genitalia. Like, this is insanity. Why? In and of itself, it's horrible. But what it's going to lead to is what the pedophiles have been asking for. If you can consent to that, guess what? What's more fluid than gender? Age. I adopted 2 children in Haiti that we rescued back in 2014.
Well, really quick, we don't have much time.
Okay.
I want to hear you talk a little bit about the border because you spent a decade down there.
I can't believe you stopped me right there, man. You got to have me back.
I got to.
This is too important.
But yeah, I wanted just briefly.
Okay.
How is the Biden administration enabling this?
Well, look, the economy of pedophilia. Right? The United States is the #1 consumer of child exploitation material. We are the demand. So that means the traffickers want to get children into that dark market. There's a lot of money to be made here. The United States, also according to State Department, is in the top 3 countries for destination countries for human trafficking. So there's every incentive to get children into America, into the black markets here of pedophilia. And so when I find out that in the last couple of years, at least 85,000, I think it's much higher than that, but at least 85,000 unaccompanied minors, thousands of them, I've seen the CBP reports, are under 5 years old. Why is a 3-year-old showing up at the border? Well, I can tell you why, because they show up with a name. The name is the sponsor that they're given by the trafficker. HHS gets the kids, and they, by law, have to call the number. Hi, we have Jose Gonzalez, Mr. George Smith. Yeah, that's my kid, whatever. Okay, they used to actually fly down and have to pick the kid up. Not anymore. Our taxpayer dollars will then send the kid by plane or bus to the sponsor. No background check, no DNA, nothing. And they deliver the kids. Our taxpayer dollars are literally, for the first time in American history, our taxpayer dollars are going to facilitate the last leg of a child trafficking event.
And the border is open.
The border is wide open. It's $14 million a day are landing in the pocket of smugglers and traffickers, thanks to the Biden-Harris border policy. The only compassionate policy is border enforcement, barriers, walls. Why? Because and the Sound of Freedom talks about this. Because the walls and the barriers lead the children who are being hurt into that funnel of rescue. Trained women and men in uniform are there. Those kids want to go through the port of entry. Those kids pray for a wall. The wall will save their lives. But let's take it all down. Let's open it all up. Kids are being abused by the thousands. And our taxpayer dollars are going for it, are actually funding it.
Brutal lo que dijo este héroe de la vida real, y eso es lo que parece que molesta que podamos ver en el cine, por fin, historias de héroes, pero héroes de la vida real. No los supuestos héroes de la vida real como quieren hacer aquellos que actúan de superhéroes en películas, pero bueno, ustedes sabrán a quiénes me refiero, algunos, no todos, pero algunos. Amigos, muchas gracias por haber visto el video, hasta acá seguiremos cubriendo noticias de Sound of Freedom, y ya saben que si no están suscritos a Planeta Arcadia todavía, los invito a que se suscriban y que activen la campanita para no perderse ningún video, ni ningún análisis, ninguna crítica de películas, cobertura de eventos videos, entrevistas, programa en vivo ni nada. Es muy importante que activen la campanita y que a mí me sigan en Twitter y en Instagram para que estemos en contacto. Yo soy Pablo, nos vemos muy pronto amigos y que la fuerza los acompañe. Chao.